Tonight, lucky to be alive. A woman falls into an old septic tank in Rolla. Under control. Firefighters get a hold of a fire burning near Buckinghorse River. And weekend sweep. A bull rider from Fort St. John wins 2 events in 3 days. Good evening and thank you for joining us. And we begin with the ongoing drought situation here in northern BC. A woman from Rolla is speaking out tonight after a patch of grass beside her home gave way without warning and she fell into an abandoned septic tank. Donna Kane believes it happened because there was no moisture left in the soil.
I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to die like 7 feet from the door of my house. It's a very strange feeling to be in a place that you feel is like one of the safest places you can be, and then suddenly find yourself in a situation where you think you might die.
Kane was stuck in ice-cold water for 20 minutes. She held onto the side of the hole to prevent herself from drowning. She called for help, but her voice was drowned out by the wind. Finally, her husband Wayne realized something was wrong and came to her rescue. The septic tank was around 60 years old. Kane said they had no idea it was just a few feet underground from the house. She says there was no moisture left in the soil and the clay around the tank just crumbled due to a lack of water. And she wants other property owners to be aware. Kane says anyone who has an old homestead should be aware of the history of their property. Property records are available through the Peace River Regional District. A wildfire is burning 17 kilometers northwest of Buckinghorse River and is now being held. The Pocket Knife Creek wildfire had grown to 125 hectares in size. It's still burning just east of the Redfern-Kelly Provincial Park. The Wildfire Service says it's not anticipated to spread beyond its current perimeter. The fire is suspected to have been started by lightning last Monday. 5 crews of firefighters tackled the blaze with help from aircraft overhead. 26 wildfires are currently burning across northeast BC. Premier David Eby announcing a provincial plan today to boost BC's mining industry. With global demand for critical minerals at an all-time high, the Premier is looking to take advantage of BC's natural resources to provide a jolt to our provincial economy. Today's announcement comes in an effort to secure billions of dollars through investment in the province's mining industry, helping create thousands of new jobs within the sector. With conservation and reconciliation going hand in hand, the Premier was quick to comment on the necessity of a partnership with local First Nations while mining for critical minerals in northern BC.
Economic development, conservation of precious water and land, and partnership with First Nations go together. That last point I really want to emphasize. We cannot realize our full potential as a province in the timelines that we want without First Nations as full partners at the table.
The announcement comes just weeks after the controversial approval of Bill 15. And we've arrived at the last week of this spring legislative session in Victoria. And policymakers have from today till Thursday to wrap up unfinished business before the session adjourns for the summer. That doesn't mean MLAs are on vacation. Most will return to their constituency offices where they can meet with residents and local advocacy groups, while the Premier and ministers will continue their duties as usual. The House will resume sitting in October. Parliament has resumed in Ottawa after more than 5 months. Before the House got down to business, several new senators were sworn in, along with the key election of a new House Speaker. CTV's Michael Couture has more.
The first order of business with any new parliament is the election of a Speaker of the House of Commons. And after Conservative MPs withdrew from the race, it was a choice of 6 Liberals.
In a tradition dating back centuries, Quebec MP Francis Scarpaleggia feigns resistance to take his seat as the Speaker of the House. As he thanked members for their votes, he also asked for their cooperation in keeping decorum.
I would remind members that we are at the beginning of a mandate in the selfish hope that you will afford me a little grace period.
That sentiment also came from rookie MP and Prime Minister Mark Carney.
I have much to learn from the members of this great House. I will make mistakes. I have no doubt that you will call them out for good reason. Because this House has rules. It has traditions.
traditions that former Speaker and current Conservative leader in the House, Andrew Scheer, knows all too well.
Debates should be passionate. They should be lively. The lives of Canadians are changed by the decisions we make, and so it is normal that members get enthusiastic and fiery. When the stakes are so high, often the best thing you can do is allow the players to play a little bit.
Now, the number of players has grown with 343 members of Parliament, but there is one less recognized party as the NDP failed to elect 12 MPs. And the government House leader confirmed those 7 members won't get official party status.
The law says 12 members.
But you can make exceptions. Why not make an exception for them?
Can I make exceptions to the law?
Interim leader of the NDP, Don Davies, says he's not looking for an exception, but he wants access to resources.
These are all little privileges that are only afforded to recognized parties, but we should be able to get those because it'll help us do our job better.
Now, part of that job is to scrutinize legislation like the Liberals' middle-class tax cut and the bill to crack down on crime like car theft. All things that the government wants to get done in 4 weeks before the summer break. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
And it's been nearly 7 decades since a new monarch stepped foot in Canada. Well, today that changed with King Charles' visit. While Charles is no stranger to our country, this visit may be his most consequential. As CTV's Colton Prale explains, the new head of state is walking a diplomatic tightrope.
For the first time as reigning monarchs, King Charles III and Queen Camilla are in Canada. Greeted by a military honor guard, the Governor General, the Prime Minister and his wife, Indigenous leaders, and a small crowd of students, this is a long-awaited visit.
Canada should have been one of the first places he visited after becoming king because we are the senior member of the Commonwealth, and that's the tradition. That wasn't able to happen.
A cancer diagnosis early in the king's reign means the 76-year-old monarch arrives in Canada 2 years after his coronation. But a whirlwind 24 hours in the capital is making up for lost time. The royal visit, anchored by the speech from the throne Tuesday and meant to showcase the country's sovereignty, starts with Canada's game and centers around meeting Canadians.
The geopolitical sphere that we are in really influenced him to say, yes, I will be there. I will stand up for Canada at this time when they really need it.
At Rideau Hall, the king highlighting the strength of the Commonwealth and Canada's ocean-spanning bond with the monarchy, planting a ceremonial tree, his 5th time doing so, in a symbol of friendship and cooperation before their majesties held audiences with the Governor General and Prime Minister Mark Carney and his wife.
All this in advance of tomorrow's speech from the throne, where Canadians' eyes and ears will be on the king and his scripted defense of Canada's sovereignty. Colton Prale, CTV News, Ottawa.
To the latest now in contract negotiations between Canada Post and its union. Talks are expected to resume in the next couple of days after a meeting between the two sides Sunday saw no deal reached.
I wouldn't say optimistic, but we always have to be optimistic enough that we want a deal. We want to get this done.
The Canadian Union of Postal Workers is still reviewing Canada Post's latest offer, which was made last Wednesday. It includes a pay increase, but also plans to roll out some part-time workers. For now, the union has told its members to refuse overtime. A $50 million settlement has been approved in a class action lawsuit that accused Loblaws of engaging in an industry-wide scheme to fix the price of bread. The judge overseeing the case says the settlement is a fair one and in the best interest of class members. The settlement was reached last year and includes a combined $404 million to be paid by Loblaw and its parent company, George Weston. Those eligible for a piece of the settlement had to have purchased packaged bread for personal use on or resale between January 2001 and December 2021. There are troubling new numbers that show more Canadians are missing payments on their mortgages, auto loans, and credit cards. The report from Equifax Canada blames economic uncertainty, rising unemployment, and the high cost of food and housing. CTV's Pat Foran reports.
Most Canadians know you should pay off your credit card bills each month, but only about 2/3 do. The rest carry a balance, which leads to added interest payments.
The interest is so high, it's really a shame because we're all struggling.
They want you to not pay it back so that you just slide down the hill. It's like a marble on a hill.
I just pay it off one every month, whatever the minimum. Sometimes I pay a little bit more and keep it going like that.
Now some Canadians are having trouble even making minimum payments. 1.4 million consumers missed a credit payment in the first quarter of this year, an increase of 146,000 over last year.
It definitely is younger consumers, maybe even lower income consumers as well, where we are seeing those missed payments really rising.
More consumers are also having trouble paying their car loans, especially younger people. Missed auto loan payments with consumers 35 and under increased 30% over last year. Canadians are also under mortgage stress, and many are searching for ways to lower their payments. 28% of homeowners switch lenders shopping around for better interest rates. Missed mortgage payments are also on the rise.
We've seen on the mortgage side, particularly in Ontario, the missed payments levels are really so much higher than they were kind of 12, 24, 36 months ago.
Home ownership remains out of reach for many people. A report from Desjardins found that while over the past 25 years, home prices have risen 320%, average disposable income only increased 110%. Credit counseling services say anyone who is missing payments should seek help before their situation gets worse.
You're getting the collection calls, you're getting the legal notices, you're not really knowing who to turn to.
Missing any type of payment can affect your credit rating and score, which could cause you to pay higher interest rates, and lenders may be reluctant to lend you money in the future. Pat Foran, CTV News.
It was an emotional day at an Ontario school after a crash that killed 4 students and a teacher. A memorial is growing outside the Walkerton District Community School in honor of the teens and their coach. They were killed Friday afternoon near London, Ontario on the way home from a softball tournament after their SUV collided with a transport truck. Grief counselors were brought in to help the students. Premier Doug Ford offering his condolences.
It's just an absolute tragedy, and my prayers and thoughts go out to the family. I had an opportunity to speak to the principal. I spoke to the teacher's mother this morning, and one of the students' mothers.
Ontario Provincial Police are still trying to establish what happened. Well, the judge in the trial of 5 former World Junior hockey players accused of sexual assault has rejected the Crown's attempt to have text messages from a former teammate entered into evidence. The 5 men have all pled not guilty to the alleged assault in a London, Ontario hotel room in 2018. The messages were sent days later by current NHL player Brett Howden, who's not accused of any wrongdoing. The Crown called the texts critical to their case, but the judge rejected them, ruling Howden has, quote, no present recollection of the incident and admitted they could be inaccurate. A sentence was handed down today in the theft of a famous portrait from an Ottawa hotel. The iconic photograph of Winston Churchill was taken from the Chateau Laurier sometime between Christmas Day 2021 and January 6, 2022. The Roaring Lion, as the painting is called, was then replaced with a fake. Jeffrey Wood admitted earlier this year to stealing the photograph and committing forgery. Well, today, the Ontario man was sentenced to 2 years less a day in jail. The portrait captures Churchill just after he delivered a wartime address to the Canadian Parliament. It was returned to the hotel after a lengthy international investigation. And police in the United Kingdom say a car has hit multiple pedestrians. It happened during Liverpool's Premier League title celebrations. Police say the car stopped at the scene and a male had been detained. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has reacted, saying in a social media post, the scenes in Liverpool are appalling. My thoughts are with all those injured or affected. I want to thank the police and emergency services for their swift and ongoing response to this shocking incident. I'm being kept updated on the developments and ask that we give the police the space they need to investigate. So far, there's no word on how many people may have been injured. Well, the President of the United States called the President of Russia crazy after days of Russian strikes on Ukraine. This is the aftermath of a Russian drone attack on the port city of Odessa. It's part of the larger assault on Ukraine in more than 3 years of war. Overnight, Russia launched more than 350 drones and 9 cruise missiles, according to Ukraine's Air Force. It marks the 3rd consecutive night of bombardment, which included residential buildings. Over the past week, Russian attacks have killed at least 30 civilians and injured more than 160 people. All right, please do stay tuned. I'll be right back after the break with a look at weather.